Is there any comparison to Josh Allen in all your years in the league? Is there someone, well, Josh Allen reminds me of
Yeah.
anyone?
He's a hell of a player, hell of a talent. I think it's shocking if you guys haven't, actually seen him, physically in person, especially in pads. But I think the main one that people usually go with is Ben Roethlisberger. Because Ben was that, and this is nothing against Ben. Ben was, in his day was incredible. I think Josh is even bigger and faster. Cam Newton is another one that I think he's obviously a better a more of a pure passer than Cam. But those two guys, at least as far as body type, you're talking about a guy that's over 6'5" and 240 pounds and can run and create like he can, and then arguably he probably has the strongest arm as far as just pure arm talent in the league. So, really good player.
A lot of times, Joe, we ask what can you do? What can't you do? I mean, what are the things that get you in trouble against a guy like that?
Yeah, I think it's, you have to, you do this every single week. And I think I've in my time in here with you guys, I've talked to you guys about rush lanes. And when you have a center and then you have a guard and tackle on each side, there's really 3 lanes on each side. So there's 6 lanes that you have to rush as a pass rusher. Well, when you rush 4, just do the math. Obviously, when you add blitzers, you eliminate one of those rush lanes. So the big thing is, no matter if you rush 4, 5, or 6, you have to really be coordinated, and you have to do a great job of, we talk about all the time, not getting past the level of the quarterback. A lot of times you see a quarterback, if he drops back and let's say his back foot is at 7 yards, well, if that pass rusher rushes to 10 yards, well, now there's a vertical lane, there's a vertical seam. So those are all things that you have to talk about all the time in coordinating a rush plan, no matter what kind of athlete the quarterback is. But this week with a guy that can really make you pay if you're not detailed and exact with it, he can make you pay with his legs. But then in addition to that, you really got to do a great job down the field with your eyes, whether you're in man or zone, not turning someone free when he takes off and runs, that he can find and take a shot. So, but all things those are the problems that a quarterback like this that you have to, really spend time on. And also this guy, I don't think I've ever seen a guy, even back, as we mentioned with Ben and Cam, this guy, I've never seen a quarterback not slide like this guy. This guy he's looking to get every inch of grass that he can get, and in a violent, physical manner. So, heck of a player, no doubt about it.
What kind of stress does it put on your corners too, with his scrambling ability? But obviously Diggs and Gabe Davis can
Great,
every play, right?
really good players as well. They have a nice, they have great skill. Obviously, 14 and 13, as you said. I think Knox, the tight end's a good player. Singletary, the back, is a good player. So they do a good job. I think when you have a quarterback that can create and do things off schedule, of course, I think you mentioned the corners. I think it really it stresses the entire defense, because you really have to be disciplined and detailed, not only once he does cross the line of scrimmage to tackle him and get him down, but just being disciplined and doing your job before he crosses the line of scrimmage when he's still an eligible passer. So put stress on the corners, but put stress on the whole unit. Those are the things you got to deal with when you're playing against a great player.
We've asked you this season about putting Jaw on their best receiver. Is Allen and Diggs, with where they're at right now, to a level where you can't just put one guy, even if it is Jaw, on Diggs the entire game, or is that your best option?
Yeah, it's definitely an option, but as I've mentioned to you before, I think with the common theme with most teams with their number one, And Buffalo's no different. They do a great job of moving him all over the place. You know, he plays on the right, he plays on the left, he plays the Z, he plays the X, he plays the slot. You know, and then they obviously change the strength motion with him and things. So they do a really good job of moving him around.
You know, Jason asked you last week about the second halves. How do you get that cleared up? I think in the 3 games, you've had 11 possessions, not to take knees, but 11 possessions. I think they've got 9 scores. And so how do you get that cleared up?
Well, I think first and foremost, we gotta take advantage of the ops that we've had, whether it be on third down to get off the field. You know, we had a couple brutal third down losses in Washington last week. We had the 3rd and 11. We had the 3rd and 9. Great coverage. You know, they made a play, we didn't. We had another 3rd down that we got a huge sack fumble and a scoop and score for a touchdown. You know, that was taken away. So first and foremost, you gotta, you know, and we've been pretty damn good on 3rd down all year long. But for whatever reason in those games, you know, when you got an opportunity to get off the field, you got to cash in. You got to do it. You can't give that offense new life. Whether it's a takeaway opportunity, we had plenty of takeaway opportunities in Washington the second half that we made plays on the ball, but we could have really gotten, you know, takeaways. We could have gotten interceptions. Had a handful of penalties that really hurt us as well. You know, Preston had a huge tackle for loss. You know, it's going to be 3rd and 8. You know, we had a defensive holding penalty that, you know, kept that drive alive, which they got a field goal out of. So I think there's a number of things that take place with that. And they practice, they're going to make plays, but when we get them in positions to, whether it's us taking the ball away or we get them to 3rd down, you know, we got to get off the field. And we just, for whatever reason, you know, in a handful of those games in the second half, hasn't gone our way. So something that we, you know, had a great 3rd down day today. You know, we stress takeaways every single day. I think if you really look at the last 2 weeks, you know, because takeaways are huge. You know, that is, I think, a lifeblood for any defense. And those are things that we have not been able to you know, consistently do this year. But I think really the last 2 weeks, if you look at the way we've challenged receivers and we've gotten our hands on a bunch of balls. So if we can just turn those into takeaways and get them back for our offense, get their offense off the field, it's going to help.
Joe, what's Stokes supposed to do on that illegal contact play, on that fumble play? What did you see there?
Yeah, I mean, Rob, that's a slippery slope.
Not trying to get
you know,
in trouble.
yeah, I just you know, we want our guys to be aggressive, and you know, especially when they put a running back out at number 1, you know, we're going to get hands on those guys. And you know, of course, the way the rules are, especially with things that they're really going to overemphasize, you know, we got to coach it better. And you know, those are things, you know, we do take a lot of pride in, you know, coming down from Matt anytime there's a rule change, or you know, the league lets us know that they're going to, you know, emphasize something. Those are things that we get across to the player. But it's just a bummer that you know, it happened on that play away from the play, and it was such a huge impact. I mean, it was a 3rd down, it was a sack fumble, and it was a scoop and score for a touchdown. So that was a huge play that was taken away. But you know, the rules are the way they are, and we gotta abide by them.
In a 4-point game at that point, I think it was, right? I think it was 14-10 at that point too.
Yeah, we would have gone up 21-10. Yeah. So, but yeah, we just gotta, you know, we all got to do a better job with that.
Joe, what did Enikbari do to sort of take that number 3 outside linebacker spot? He gave him the most reps of anybody else.
Yeah, you know, he's been doing a good job. You know, young kid that's hopefully got a pretty bright future here. So, you know, he got a lot of reps last week just when Rashawn got hurt and left the game. You know, that kind of almost doubled, almost tripled his rep count that he had been getting. But, you know, he's been getting, you know, 10 to 15 snaps a game, and just a young guy that's improving every single day.
Joe, what did you think, just what you guys did get on the takeaway that you were able to secure, with Devondre picking that off, and obviously I think Gary was right down Heineke's throat too.
Yeah, it was great pressure, and Dre made a hell of a play. I think it wasn't one of those where Dre was just hit between the 5 and the 9 with the ball. Had a great break and really took the ball away from the receiver. And then the great thing about it was not only able to get the takeaway, but was able to score. So it was a great play by Dre, and we need more of those. It's nothing better than taking the ball away, but when you score on D, it's even better.
You had a handful of balls that they had your DBs had hands on, had a chance to pick off.
Oh, yeah.
Is that more frustrating, like, goodness, it's in your hands, or is it encouraging that they're in position to make the play?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. Of course, selfishly, you want, Ja had one, he could have had, Rasul had one, even down in the red zone, we got the stop before a field goal, but Quay had one that he could have picked, so those are, those are momentum. Anytime you win on a third down with a PBU, it's a great play. I mean, the first third down of the game on their sideline, Ja and Rasul were there. They could have had it. So, I mean, those are legitimate. Sometimes you look at it and you're like, okay, this isn't a real interception opportunity. But we had 3, possibly 4 legitimate, interception ops. So, of course, it is, but it's, but the thing that is encouraging and exciting is that the guys are making plays on the ball and they're attacking the ball. So that's obviously always a positive. Not to mention the one, Savage had the great rake on the fumble that was reviewed, and then so as long as we're attacking the ball, we talk about every snap, every time the ball snapped, it's an opportunity for a takeaway. So if we're attacking the ball, that is encouraging. It's good.
Joe, when you have someone like Stokes who has such a standout rookie year and then opponents have an off-season to study their tape, does that almost make their second year a steeper learning curve than their rookie year?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a number of things that factor into it. I think, you would have to get a player's answer to that. But, I think it's hard for a young guy. I personally think it's always harder for the player in his second year, when Eric kind of came in, even though we took him in the first round, he came in and he was kind of thrust into the role that he had last year when Jair got hurt. And Eric did a phenomenal job. He really did last year. But, every year's a new year. And I know one thing, the kid shows up every single day with just his mindset is to get better. He studies the game. There's sometimes young guys really don't know how to prepare and how to work. That is not the case with Eric Stokes. He prepares and studies, as fine as any veteran that I've ever seen. So, he's going full tilt with the process, and there's not a doubt in my mind that he's gonna keep playing better.
There's a lot of defenses where one of your top 2 corners goes through some struggles and you stick with them because they don't go 3 deep. You guys have the luxury of having Rasul. Has there been any thought to putting him on the field more in base and having fewer snaps for Eric in those situations?
Yeah, I mean, we of course always talk about those things, and it's we're really not from the, up front with the D-line, with the outside rushers. They're always kind of in a rotation. That usually isn't the case when you're talking about corners. And also in this day and age, I mean, you play so few base snaps anyways. I think we're up around, we have 5 DBs on the field almost 90% of the time. So, but those are things that, we do talk about, but by no means are we thinking about, starting some kind of rotation or anything.
Joe, going back to Devondre, earlier in the season we were asking you questions about him, and obviously you're not the kind of coach that criticizes guys publicly. So maybe this is a flawed premise, but it seemed that he wasn't playing at the level that he played at last year to start the season. If that's the case, can a game like last Sunday and a big play like last Sunday kind of get him back on the trajectory to being the guy that tilted the field in your favor last year?
Yeah, and that's the thing when, I know you guys asked me that earlier in the year, and, the body of work that Dre had last year in, 18 games was pretty special, and, we're not even at the halfway point of the season yet. I thought Dre had one of his best games that he's had as a Packer, just a few weeks ago when we were in Tampa. So, and, I know this is, you can't go down this road, but I mean, if we find a way to win that game in Washington, arguably there's a chance that, Devondre Campbell might be the NFC Defensive Player of the Week, So, yeah, I mean, Dre is as consistent as a guy as there is, I mentioned with Stokes, I've told you guys before, like with Rasul Douglas, just as far as being a pro and preparing, and now Dre's kind of taking on even more of the role of leader with being a captain. Dre does everything he's supposed to every single day. So I hope with a game like he just had, if that propels him into more games, I would love it, because it was pretty cool seeing 59 run down the sidelines the other day.